Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank everybody in attendance and online for joining us. First item on the agenda is the approval of the financials. Those should have been in everybody's packet. Everybody had an opportunity to go through those. Anybody have any questions? The answer is right to my left. We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Roll call, please.
Wilhelmie.
Aye.
Otis.
Aye.
Gessner.
Aye.
Volk.
Aye.
Frick.
Aye. Financials are approved. Minutes from our previous meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The agenda. Any changes? I do have one thing that, just for formality, we're gonna add the construction engineering service agreement to be signed by the commission chair and the county auditor for DOT engineering for, what is this, Paul, for a contract on
It's for the Ramsey County 4 box
Ramsey
culvert
County for
construction engineering.
construction engineering. So it's something that DOT sent out in an electronic deal, and I clicked and signed away. So if anybody wants to take a look at it, we'll have it in there and we'll do it officially through a motion. So I'd accept a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. First item on our agenda, Mr. Crosby. Mr. Crosby and Troop 31, welcome men and women of the Troop 31. Welcome to the Ramsey County Commission.
Thank you for having us, sir. Troop 31 Scouts. Brought with me our committee chairman, Michelle Macheski, and I have also two of our assistant scoutmasters, Brandon Nelson and Zach Yanish. The Cub master for Troop 3028 is here. Her son's in our troop, Courtney Holden. And then we have, let's see here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of our scouts here tonight. Some of the older ones have already done the merit badge and stuff too. And I told them it's a lot better to come to a county commission meeting than a city one. So we're here tonight as part of the citizenship and the community merit badge to learn about how the committee meetings run and stuff, and become active citizens both within our community and within Ramsey County and stuff. So that was part of the merit badge. We learned a little bit about the government, and then we learned about how to help our community and stuff. So we'll be doing some more activities within our community here to help out, and we're always looking for stuff to do. So if you have any questions for the scouts, have at it.
We certainly appreciate the scouts being here, and volunteerism is a key to making a community continue to roll along the tracks. So you're learning a very valuable lesson in community service and volunteerism today. So I appreciate you men and women coming in and joining us today. Any questions for us? No?
Mr. Chairman, could we ask if they introduce themselves?
Yeah, absolutely we could. Could we have everybody introduce themselves?
My name is Terrence Bjornson.
Phoenix Nelson.
Ileana Nelson. Paul Cortez. Sean Sanders. Kyra Bjornson. Brady Holden. Sarah Crosby.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate all you coming in, and appreciate your parents and the volunteers that help make your troop a success. So big round of applause for you guys. Anything else? Commissioners? Okay. Moving on, next item on our agenda, Mr. Sean Root. Commissioner, sure.
I have just some files for you guys here. Just, start off with some one reading. Most of this is stuff that you guys have already seen. Some of you have brand new commissioners. Some not. Just great reading for you. That's all it is. Of course, the shoes that I wear are the squeakiest pair of shoes.
It doesn't matter how dirty your shoes are.
Here,
or-
Okay.
Yep,
I got it too.
Yeah, so what I've presented to you is, I'm here for Lake Region Joint Training Center. We have to do some restructuring because, we got some elections here, so we have a brand new sheriff that we'll have to bring on up to speed and up the board, so he has all the paperwork here. So it's the first time he's seen it, so I don't know if he wants to answer any questions on it. We've been doing a lot of studying with Lake Region. Sorry. We've been doing a lot of studying and going over different types of bids for bids. We were denied the Auto Bremer grant. We're denied quite a few of the different grants. It's not the direction they want to go at this time. They're not really interested in first responders at this time. So we have been denied, but we have several different bids from area banks. One with Bank of North Dakota is going to be dropping our rates. Basically, it's going to be anywhere from 3 to 6%. So it depends on what bids we go with, and North Dakota Bank is going to basically forgive it and pay that. We will have a complete breakup for you. Spencer's working on it to kind of figure out which one's the best one. Once we have all the details, which ones we'd like to go with, we'll present it with you again. This is a joint venture with city and county. Lake Region Joint Training Center is basically the old ambulance building for my new commissioners here. We have no place to train. Our service holds about 12 people. That's not enough if we're going to do a joint training with any of the law enforcement. Our sheriff's, his training center is the courtroom. So when they have to do defensive tactics, put holes in the walls, which the judge and lawyers kind of frown upon. They have no training equipment whatsoever. I don't know what they have for training equipment, but it's close to nothing. I have some training equipment, but not a lot. What this will do is open it up for search and rescue, for a place for them to meet inside the garage. It also gives us a place to have large rooms and training. There is a diagram in the very back of the page there that was put together by one of the companies that's got the bid for it. And there's room for 50 people when we're doing the training, so we can actually train with, like the rural fire department, you can go with their hall, but with the law enforcement, we have no place to train. This is also a location that the jail is looking at if there's an incident or a flooding, that they'd be able to put inmates in to bring to this location because it'll be secure with some cameras and different security doors. So we'll build it so that it can be a backup. This is also where we plan on putting the backup dispatch. Use it as a training center, but also have a backup dispatch just in case. So we're looking at quite a few options for this. The picture in the front, you can see that they've got the Otter Tail building with the white fence there. I've talked to them. They put us on the list as number one to try to get that when they move the substation so we can expand on it. I'm looking at having this sustainable for 15 years to 20 years at a training center. We can put up a garage there we can use for SWAT. Right now, the drone team is in there. We donated one of our old ambulances, the outfitted it, but they have a garage, that's it. SWAT team has got a building in the back there that they'll have secure, so I actually have a place for the SWAT team to sit besides the county shop. So it's a place that's a little bit more secure. There's a lot of applications for this, and so we'd like to move forward with the project. We've been doing this for the past 2 years. As far as funding for it, we'll be charging some of the agencies when we do regional training. Of course, for our own first responders, there is no charge. Anybody that's in the building, there will be no charge. Say if the courthouse wanted to have training, they want to have down there, of course, that's no charge. It will be fair to the city, but it's available to our citizens for either a fee or recommendations from you. We also have training down there, so we want to make a nice training facility. with the addition of a few other buildings, as it gets a little bit larger, especially a place to hold the AMRAD and a few of the other SWAT equipment. That's a little bit too heavy for the search and rescue building. So put everything in one general location, makes it a little bit easier. What I was bringing to you guys today is just bringing my new commissioners up to speed on what we've been working on for the past 2 years. It's a joint between county and city. County had previously said that they would donate half of the money, for the city to do the other half. It's a loan up to 15 years, 20 years. I'm also here to ask for the money for the bills that you graciously gave us last year of 10 grand. We're looking at about 20 grand a year for the building of the facility and for all the training equipment on top of the 10 grand, while we try to establish ourselves until we can get on our own feet. Still looking at the non-charitable gaming. We have some options with that. And the whole goal of that is to just get the charitable gaming so we can have enough to sustain it without having to ask the county for our city for any money, and to get funds for scholarships for first responders. Specifically, like our law enforcement will have money for training with the same places. Our EMTs can go to school for the paramedic program. Firefighters can go to training in Albuquerque, places like that. So our whole goal is to have scholarships, pay for our own equipment, and just be our own entity. But right now, we're still trying to get on our feet. The building's been demolished, and we realize that we're first responders, not carpenters, and we can't build anything, right, except for some of the real guys, but I'm not going to trust everything. So that's what I'm just here to bring you up to speed on that. Once I have a definitive answer, I'd like to bring it up to you guys again. So today is just get you guys acquainted with what's going on with my new commissioners, and refresh the commissioners from last year when we met about this. Any questions on the joint training center before I move to the next?
Yep.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about a backup PSAP.
Yes.
So is that meaning you're planning on moving the backup PSAP from down here?
Negative. So what we are doing is, like we've seen some of our training.
Yeah.
So when we're doing a training, we have live exercises.
Mm-hmm.
It's out of the dispatch. So our dispatchers so they're answering actual 911 calls, answering. This is going to be a training center, because right now when they train, they bring to the dispatch center and they train on live equipment. This is a piece of training equipment, which will have just a small backup in case something major happens. So a backup for a backup, if you will, on a smaller scale. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Redundancy is always good.
Yeah, we're not going to go for a full. We're going for a modular training area. So I think it's in the back room there. Sorry.
No.
But where it says the SWAT storage is now actually, that's where the dispatch training room would be.
Okay.
And we're going to set it up like their actual dispatch. The tower is there. And when we actually do live exercises, they'll put a dispatcher there just for the exercises. So it's not going to have the same capabilities as our dispatch, but it'll be a backup for the backup, which means that saves us a lot of money.
Sure. Okay, that's the only question that I had. Continue.
Okay, anybody else have some questions? There's a lot of information on here.
So what, you said you're on first on the list for Otter Tail, you get that space next to you,
Yes,
what's the timeline on
kind of like our radios for siren.
that? Okay.
So they're saying about 5 years that they'll be ready for it, and then after that, they said it's a great project that we're doing next door, so I'm hoping to get that donated. So that's what I'm working with Otter Tail to get that donated, and then we have lots of possibilities with that. Nothing set in stone yet.
So how active is that?
Not very active at all. We've been waiting for months to get these bids. It's dealing with the banks to see who gets the bids, and then both of you guys are well aware of what it takes to get bids and having to wait for everything. So we've been waiting, and then we waited till after the elections, and then give them a little bit of a break before we start back up again. So once we have all that information, then we'll welcome probably our new board member on.
Add to your list,
Can
Well,
Now,
This one's not so painful. We usually do this after one of our other first responder meetings. One of our other meetings, we just take a quick break and go over what we're doing. So it's not too painful. So in this bid, actually, it's included about 32 to 35,000 for law enforcement training equipment. So it's mats and training radios, weapons, things like that. So a lot of money's going into law enforcement. They have nothing. They don't even have mats. When they train with each other, it's concrete floors that they're throwing each other on. So it's not exactly safe. So that's kind of what's included on that. Now, again, this is just a real quick briefing until we get all the material in. So if there's any other questions on that, I can move on to the ambulance service.
yeah,
Okay, so I was actually named the co-chair of the advocacy committee in the state for EMS. While I was down there, got a chance to meet the governor briefly and talk to the House of Representatives and the Senate. We have a bunch of bills, and one that I'm most excited about is the mandated tax districts for ambulance service. It passed 14-0 on the committee, and it's on the floor, it's on the House with major support. One of the big things that they're looking at is the day that we're testifying, Wing Ambulance closed down. They're a nonprofit like we are. They just said, we're done, close it up, close their ambulances, and took all their equipment, they're gonna sell it, took all the money from the funds, and they're gonna give it away. Because it's their nonprofit, nobody owns it. So they have no ambulance and they're selling all the stuff off. So that got a lot of the House and Senate wondering about the safety of their own services. As it stands right now, we're a nonprofit, but according to bylaws, you own us. And so does the city of Devils Lake, just like the LEC. Like I said, we've been established in 1966, and we've been on our own since then. We actually haven't asked for any money except for a donation for our mini ambulance. We've been self-sustaining. In 2017, we started to lose a lot of our budget. Right now, we're only getting about 20% of all our total calls. So we're 20% of all of our profits that we get. So when we take a patient and we bill it, we get 20% back. We were cut in 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, keep cutting our budgets. Critical access, we used to get that, we don't anymore. So to keep cutting it, we do have a cost data collection coming up with CMS that I'm doing right now to hopefully get us to get paid again. Last year, or 2021, excuse me, we became healthcare professionals. So they didn't have us have that before. State of North Dakota, we're not essential workers, and we're still classified as chauffeurs, even though we have a lot of education.
excuse me?
Yeah.
Chauffeurs.
So they pay us as if we're chauffeurs, that's what we're getting for mileage. Our cost of our ambulance went from 60,000 to 150,000. Our monitors went from a couple thousand to 550,000 cost to 500. So each ambulance we have is a little bit over 500,000 to stock it and equip it. So our cost,
4, 5,
we have 4 actual, the 5th is the mini ambulance that's still on the way.
okay.
So that's our special event ambulance. And we can staff 2 right now. We had to make cuts to how many staff we had on 24/7. So now we only have 2 ambulances at a shot. Our goal is to get back to the 3 teams working 24/7. So that's our whole goal. But we had to make a lot of budget cuts because we are not getting paid as much as that. We're going to be going in the red eventually. All of the other counties with size of cities like us, Grafton, Valley City, Lisbon, the cutoff to make it mandatory is 10,000. So we're right above the cutoff because of how many people we serve. So everybody that's past that cutoff just barely is waiting to see what we do. So they want to see what we're going to do with it. This is something that I'm hiring a company with. We'll see it more.
You're talking mandated as far as 10,000 population?
10,000 population. So anybody below 10,000 has to have ambulance tax district. It keeps them from closing and keeps them from owning all the equipment and just stopping services.
Is that within your service area or within the county?
Service area.
Okay. Because you go beyond the borders of Ramsey County
A little bit,
a little bit,
not much.
not much.
So we butt up, so we don't even go all the way north of Ramsey. Edmore is still functioning, we've got them going again. I'll be up there a couple times, getting them all set to go, so they'll probably have to do it as well for their district.
Hmm.
So It's a mandatory taxing district for less than 10,000.
for less than 10,000. So, you know, we're looking at towns that are between 10 and 25,000 that are actually looking at doing it as well.
And did they set a mill levy? Or
Up to 15 mils.
up to 15 mils?
The good thing about the verbiage of this is if all of a sudden, right now, we're in trouble, but then all of a sudden they start paying us what we're supposed to get paid, and we get 100% reimbursement, which will never happen, but it could. Let's say if we get 80% reimbursement, then we could drop the mills to a quarter mil. So we can, so it's an open budget, so you guys can have, county commissioner has to be on the board. So then you can see where our budget is at and how much money does the service would need to stay operational.
So when you say 15 mils, is that like the fire department, we get 5 mils without a vote? We go to 13, but we have to have a vote of the people in the district?
That, I'm gonna wait till they actually pass with the verbiage on that one.
They haven't.
They haven't passed the verbiage yet. So I don't want to speculate, that's what it's gonna be, but it's up to 15 mils is what is in the books now. And the verbiage on the bill says up to 15, it has to go to a vote. So I have to get petitions, and I have to go to a vote, I gotta sit down with Candy, go over some numbers. But that's something that we're actually very seriously looking at. I think it's a service that we have to have in this area. If we have to go down to even less people, it's not gonna work. Because right now, my crew are working 24/7, so there's no time off. We're the only service that is fully staffed. Everybody else, we've cut the staff, yes, but we're still fully staffed.
You know what kind of dollars your bill would be? Same as ours, no?
Yes, basically, yeah. So, like Fargo has 35 medics that they're short. Grand Forks is down about 15 medics, Bismarck is about the same, 25, 30 medics. So there's, most of my people that work for me are from out of town. So I think I only have 3 people that live here in this county. The rest have to drive up here to work. So we're doing pretty fortunate. We've got some very highly trained crew. Not just
So far, it's looking good though.
so far, we're looking good. We're doing good here. As far as the bill, it looks like it's gonna pass because they saw what happened with all these closures. We went from 300 some ambulances in the state of North Dakota to 70. So if Edmore would have closed, we would have had anything between us and Munich, and nothing between Munich and Langland.
Starkweather no longer has a,
They have a quick response, but they do not have an ambulance. Minnewacan doesn't have an ambulance anymore. Edmore's right on the brink, but we're getting close. We should be able to save them. But most ambulances are collapsing. The volunteers, that's why they're doing it, because there's no volunteers anymore. We have to pay it. I can tell a lot of people, you pay to get your trash taken out, but you don't pay to save somebody's life. So a lot of these towns are going to go to a paid service, paid volunteer or fully paid. Dakota just did this. Dakota went to a paid volunteer service. So it's a model that's been happening all over. We'll stay paid because we're just too busy. We don't get any funds because we're one of the top 10 busiest services. So no grants are available for us for the state.
wow.
So I have to write for other grants.
What's this bill number that's going through the legislature right now?
1134. I can get you all the bills. I actually have a copy of it. And I can send you all, there's about 6 bills. One of them is a quick response unit, making them able to transport, which opens up a lot of legalities with somebody just throwing in the back of Suburban and driving past.
Yeah.
But if you wish, I'll give you all the bills and I'll send
Sure.
you the legislative package. I have it, but I don't want to waste my time looking on my phone.
Yeah.
Which I can show you.
You could send it to me.
Yep.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Yeah, I can do it immediately, but I'm not going to.
No,
No.
just send it to Candy and then you can send it.
So explain that 10% payback.
Which one, the joint training center?
No, where you said that you get, your payback has been cut to 20%.
So in 2017, the omnibus, actually the relief fund was cut. So then we started losing money from 2017. So everybody, when you think of an ambulance, you think of air ambulances charge $60,000. We are only able to give mileage and a base rate. Like hospitals are able to charge for a piece of gauze, a syringe, we do not. So we're only able to charge a certain amount. They told us what we're able to charge, but then they pay us even less. So then they keep cutting what they're actually paying us. We can still charge the same amount. It goes up about 4% every year. But it doesn't matter how much we charge, this is how much that they're gonna pay. It's usually around $300.
That's through the insurance.
That's for the insurance. And a lot of patients were not able to bill after insurance. Some people, after we get bills from the insurance company, we can pay the patient. Majority of our patients that we see, we cannot. Some patients we get $70, regardless if we go up here or if we go to Fargo. Most of our transfers do not go to Grand Forks, now they go to Fargo and Bismarck. Our insurance companies will not pay for over 250 miles, so if we go over 250 miles, it's a total loss. And we get $300, so it doesn't even pay our fuel. So they keep cutting budgets and they keep cutting from the ambulance because nobody's getting noticed because we don't complain enough. Well, we're starting to complain.
So the insurance companies have been cutting
But we're,
what your reimbursable.
yes. So we're only getting 20% to 30% of our actual bill on almost every single call that we do. And I actually have that information on the packet for the district. Second page of in there for you to show the cuts. A couple of good notes from that though. We did get approved from the VA to start doing transports. So we are already a vendor. So once we get the transport service going, which has been the hardest thing for us to get. So I thought that would have been my first project I would have got. I don't think I would have got the mini ambulance first. I thought I would have got a van for our vets first. But that's been our hardest thing to get. But they just approved it that we can actually drive our VA patients here to and from their clinics. From here to the Fargo, that's the program we want to have, and our dialysis patients. So we're going to do a mini transport.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So if I was to end up in the ambulance, or say I was in the hospital up here, you gotta transfer me to Grand Forks. And the hospital bills me, you don't get anything back for that?
Oh, no, I'll bill you from going from this hospital to the next one.
But it doesn't come from the hospital, it's coming from you.
It's coming, the bill, I get sent to your insurance. So a lot of the times the insurance they'll pay the hospitals first, and then they'll cut us.
Yeah, that's.
So if we get paid per mileage, but then they'll cut us off, like the 250 mile rule, they'll cut us off, and they won't pay us anything else. So if we're sending everybody to Fargo or to
I'm just saying, the
Bismarck,
hospital's getting their cut, but you won't.
yep. And then they usually only pay us the Grand Forks. So when we go to Fargo and Bismarck, like we have it, because everybody else is full, we only get mileage paid to Grand Forks. So instead of 180 miles, we get 90 miles, pretty much regardless.
Because what kind of floors me is we went from 300 ambulances to 70, right? And let's say all of a sudden we went down to none, right? What do these hospitals gotta do? Or would they have to bring in a service or?
They'd have to get a private for paid. So that would be a for-profit. We are 100% for profit. I'm happy when I have a zero at the end of the day. I should be squeaking in December going, okay, we got it. That's the way we should be, is do it, be a nonprofit. And a lot of things we're working on are just for community service. We do a lot for community service, so we do for free right now. The VA transport, not mine, good. The VA transport will be, of course, mileage, but it's gonna be a nice service. We're gonna be introducing community paramedicine, which is just an SUV where a paramedic goes to your house. So we'll say if we have somebody that's elderly, they break their leg, it's 50 below, they don't need to go see the doctor for a checkup. We'll send our paramedics to their house, set up telehealth, they can talk to the doctor, they need a script, we'll go get the script, we'll give them meds, we bring it back. Somebody gets out of the hospital. Basically, it's any program besides hospice and home health. It's that gap of services where the nurses can't do anything, the hospitals can't do anything. We're just gonna go to their house and they'll take care of it. So we get to see you, and most of that's gonna be a community service. So
how is that gonna get funded?
so there are some programs that I'm working with the Bush Foundation right now. And then what we're waiting for is that they're gonna make that part of the Medicare reimbursement, which is typically about $50 per visit. So it's not gonna be a moneymaker. It's definitely not gonna get us out of the black or the red.
It's better than nothing.
But it's a great service. And so it'll pay for our fuel and our employees for as many calls that they end up doing a day.
How are the insurance companies able to continue to cut? Is that a federal or a state?
We're on camera?
Yep.
Okay. So it's both. Just to give you an example, this last week, we had to go back and forth between two states with the one insurance. because they kept blaming the other one for it. It was one insurance that's through one state, but it has to be paid by the other state, but that state has to pay it. So just on one call, and that was last week, we spent almost all of our resources trying to go for one call. Same thing this week, same call. Because then we have the federal government saying it's not their responsibility. These other two private insurances are saying that's not our responsibility, it's another responsibility. They keep fighting it off. Every time we submit insurance or we submit a bill, it gets denied. Then we have to go through and try to get it. So we have to keep reapplying for it. And we go for application reimbursements 2 or 3 times per call. So my office staff is continuously busy just trying to keep up because they just don't want to pay at all.
So something just seems really off, Sean. And, EMS, first part of that is emergency.
Good.
What part of emergency don't they understand?
We're talking essential workers.
Well,
Only 11 states have essential workers as EMS.
So that's a state thing?
That's a state thing. So then those 11 states that have EMS as essential workers are still having problems. Because we're not recognized as a valid health provider.
Is that part of the reason why the insurances don't pay?
It's the easiest place to get away with it.
So what's it take for the state to make the essential?
We're working on it right now in legislation. That's one of the things that we are working is to make it that we are essential workers. Where's the camera? Allegedly.
Okay,
So this is just a briefing to get you guys up to speed. And a revamp for my other commissioners that have been around, so. Any questions before? I don't want to hold you guys up, I've been speaking for 30 minutes.
and it feels like I'm swimming in mud. So, but I appreciate that.
Thank you.
You know, that's a lot of information and, I wish we had a boatload of money to fully fund you guys forever. Essential is key, emergency is the other key aspect of that. And appreciate everything you guys do for our community.
Thank you. We'll keep the work, we'll keep writing grants, but the service will stay open. One way or the other, it will stay open, we won't close.
Yeah. Well, too important, too vital. So, like I said, we really appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you guys. Thank you, commissioners. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on next, unfinished business. We have the ATM machine request in the memorial building. Anybody have any thoughts on placing an ATM in the memorial building? Mr. Cummings?
I was requested to look into this about potential liabilities for the county, things like that. For the Cub Scouts in the room, I'm the lawyer, so I try to make sure that we don't get into trouble. And if we do, I'm the one that tries to get us out of it. So from my perspective, I don't see that there's any major liabilities with having an ATM machine. I also don't see that there's any major benefits to the county. I understand that it would be convenient to have it there during events. One thing that we put forward as possibly the solution would be to include it in our rental agreement. Hey, if you want an ATM present at your event, when you rent with us, we can arrange to have one, but it's this amount or whatever the fee is. I think that's best case scenario. We did talk about if you were to bring an ATM machine into the building, who's responsible for stocking it and providing maintenance on it. If you were to own a machine, that would be us. If you were to rent a machine, that would be whoever the owner is. However, that then that person has to have access and be able to come in here and are we really getting our money's worth out of renting a machine? All things for you all to consider. Questions about anything I found?
Is there any additional insurance?
I don't believe there would need to be. unless we were the owners of the machines, then we would add it to our policy.
I like more of the idea, as you said, is we're gonna put on the event and put it part of the rent. If you have a machine, you just have one brought in. How many events do we do? Big events that we actually need to go to, you know?
And Candy and I put our heads together about this. I don't wanna speak for you, but she talked to somebody at one of the local banks. They said it's really easy to get a machine over here as long as they get some notice. So maybe putting it in the rental contract is the way to go.
So a local bank would have one available that they can.
And I haven't reached out further than that. I
Right.
mean, it was just from them watching the last commission meeting and reaching out to me, and I said that we haven't gotten to that decision yet of what we're going to do,
I
so.
guess that was gonna be my question, and, is there some available for rent within the community, or is there gonna be some in the butt of Grand Forks, is there actual one to rent, so obviously the banks would be interested.
I think there's a
What did she say, four or five,
yeah,
something like that? So, I mean, at least we could hook somebody up with the vendor as part of our booking process, and then we get our money up front, and
There's
then
a service in town that we could use, probably use. I don't think we should be in my opinion, I don't think we should be into filling an ATM machine and just all the things that can go wrong. Having someone have access.
I guess that would be my,
I think a lot of people have enough on their plate already to have something else for everybody.
if we could put it in a rental agreement, we have access to somebody who would take that opportunity. That's the way I'd be in favor of that, but that's only one there.
And maybe provide them with the number of who that
Right.
individual would be,
Right.
and let them, if they're booking it and they would like an ATM for their event, then here's the number for that. We can
Not
provide
even,
them.
yeah, not even pay for it, just say, ATM, here's the available list, and it would be up to them to rent it, because basically that's what they're gonna be doing. It's just gonna be a revolving.
right, whoever your
We-
preferred
We
vendors are.
charge whatever the deal is, and they pay us, we pay the vendor, so there's no reason for us to do that either.
Right.
Just give them a list of here's who will be available to provide that.
And I
agree,
guess-
I don't think we need to ban it under.
Whoever that vendor would be, if they have multiple requests and they're constantly bringing a machine up here, they would maybe then ask for
Right,
that opportunity to just put it up here permanently,
right,
and then we would see the need. Right now, I think there's plenty of opportunity within a walking distance
yeah,
of our building to have access to an ATM. Whether it's across the street, that way, this way, but and I guess as the younger generation goes, more and more using plastic money instead of paper money,
I was just gonna ask, how far are we away from that?
you know?
Businesses coming with their own
Yeah.
credit card machine.
It's getting easier and easier all the time to bring a little credit card reader and
All they need is internet, that's there.
you stick your card in and sign your name.
Been to plenty of businesses that don't accept cash, it's
So,
plastic only, so.
Yeah,
I'd make a motion that we just put it in the rental agreement.
Just a list of,
Just a list of names, and then they contact who they would like to contact. That way it's up to the person coming here who they want to contact.
So just a thought on the legal end of it. Maybe we should just like have a list of preferred vendors, so it's not, whoever you find.
right,
So it's like, hey, here are your 5 options. These are the 5 you can choose from. We don't care who you choose, or whatever the number might be. Instead of
I
Uncle
agree.
Johnny's ATM from
Yeah.
Lisbon, or whatever.
Just a thought. So however that has to read in the motion is how I would
That's not how you do it.
So basically, my motion would be
A
the
list of
same, but a list
vendors.
preferred.
A list, the county provides in the contract, a list of preferred vendors for the renter to use. And then, I guess that would be.
Preference will go to locals, is that what you're after?
Yeah, that's what I would.
I'd second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to, should I have Candy read?
No. I do have a question.
Yeah,
So what if it's an establishment that has their own?
right.
Then that's up to them.
And that's kind of where I was going with this whole thing too, is that we have organizations that provide services during an event. Basically liquor sales. What if that establishment has their own and does not want to go through a third
I
party?
think we're just giving them the option. If they have their own, I think we would be able to bring their own.
Well, and
Is
so
there a box they have to check on the rental agreement that I will be providing my own? I mean, do we need to know that?
Do we have is there a list of preferred alcohol vendors?
Yes.
Or a set number of these are the people?
Because those establishments have to carry the dram insurance,
yeah,
so
And
there's
so
there's only, I mean, and that's on their list that's given to different parties that book the building.
Yeah.
So,
So I would say that we could run the ATM the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I think you put it back on the liquor vendors, you know. Hey, we're not gonna obligate them to bring their own ATM, but if they want to, you gotta work it out with them. They might charge you an extra fee,
sure.
but it doesn't have anything to do with us, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It still puts it on whoever's coming here to get that service.
Correct.
We're just giving them options.
should we,
Or do we even have to?
Not necessarily. We've been doing okay without it for a long time. But giving somebody the option to have an ATM here,
Basically, the unfinished business here was to put a machine in here permanently.
correct?
And I think we're all in agreement in not doing that. So we could just leave it as it is. If they want to have their own machine, they gotta bring their own machine.
correct,
Or contact someone that has a machine for their services. We
You
could
know,
just say, I mean, realistically, we kind of got off track a little bit. We could just say, no, we don't want to have the machine. We don't want to have the responsibility of the machine.
maybe we could amend our rental agreement to say no ATM available.
Or do we want to curate a list of,
Well,
as,
because what if somebody's left off that list and,
Right.
so is there any changes or amendments to that motion you have on the,
Cleanest way would be to withdraw.
Yeah, I'll withdraw. I would like to withdraw my motion due to the fact that I think we got off track because we're just not gonna have it.
perfect,
So we have to have a second to that, or you just.
sure.
Well, I'm asking, I don't know, I don't have to look at
I can't remember my,
it. I'll second the withdrawal then, I guess.
I'm gonna have to get my Robert's Rules of Order on my,
What did I- you said.
yeah, and I will withdraw.
okay.
Start over.
So the motion has been withdrawn,
So now we need a new motion.
so
And a new one.
new motion is to leave things as they are, or how would you like to do that?
I would say to leave them as it is. We're just basically motion not to have,
Denying the request,
denying the request not to have ATM, and it's not to say that the business can't bring one in. We've never ever said that they couldn't bring one in.
So I would say the motion, I'll make the motion that the county not enter into the enterprise of providing an ATM for public use.
So a motion to deny the request to place a ATM machine permanently within our facility. Okay,
I will second that.
we have a motion and a second of denying the request to place an ATM permanently in the memorial building. Any further discussion?
Who is the requester?
Lotus. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. New business. Central Square CAD Joint Powers Agreement. So within your packet, we have a joint powers draft agreement between all the entities of the law enforcement center. And the Central Square is the name of the company, and it's computer aided dispatch. And that's something that we entered into an agreement with the city of Devils Lake back in, was it December? That we entered into an agreement for the initial purchase.
April,
Well, was it April?
remember I looked it up in the minutes?
Well,
That's when we made a
Oh.
motion to pay our,
but I thought it was Chief Kanowski came in at a later date, and I thought that was like a October, November time deal. That he had, because he made the mistake of having a different dollar amount.
Yeah, he did come back.
So,
yeah,
so
we
that
did come
was,
back, yeah.
and that was, the video cameras we were.
Oh, yeah,
thinking
that's
about.
the video.
Back in April. So Chief Kanowski approached the commission, I think it was November, December, about and the purchase of this. And this has been an ongoing discussion at the law enforcement center for quite some time to enhance our dispatch software. And they went through several different bid proposals, companies, and this was the one that they chosen. And based upon usage is how that percentage is broken out on page 2 of the draft agreement. So you can see that annual payments to Ramsey County or cost to Ramsey County would be $17,021.15. And yearly, annual cost.
So that's for all the entities in Ramsey County?
Sure.
Well, it's not you, but because you're on here already.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been on here for a real.
Right, but I mean, that sheriff, Devils Lake Rural, Sparks Weather, Ramsey County Highway, right, is that what
I believe that that's something that was agreed upon, that those smaller ambulance service, fire services, that we were taking up the cost on, because they were so, I don't want to say insignificant, but
their regular usage is like that?
right. Their usage was very minimal. And so the big user, obviously, right on top is City of Devils Lake. They're a little over double of what our cost is annually. And then on down the line with Nelson, or Benson, Nelson, Eddy, Spear Lake Nation, and then Lake Region Ambulance. Total cost annually to the law enforcement center would be $90,854.11. And some of the enhancements to this system is, Sean probably knows better than I do, but it's, Lee knows better than I do. You and I both know.
Well, yeah, closely, you know more than I do.
Yeah.
Pretty pictures.
But it does set pretty
If I'm the
pictures.
one that knows the most, you're screwed. All I know about it is it's more adapt, like, what I understand is you can have a laptop or whatever in your car,
Yeah,
and it'll be better than
well, I think
Google
it'll be
Maps or whatever you
It'll be
use
real-
to get to your dispatch area.
real-time tracking.
Yeah.
Of squads.
And then, yeah, each truck will leave our hall, it'll say 201 left at this time, right at this time, and that's right now.
And you can track it right where it is.
Right.
You can drive right.
So right now, when they get really busy, say they got 4 different things going on, that's like rolls out. Usually typically what we get on our call sheet is just when the first truck left and when the first truck arrives. And so as the other units get there, we don't really know when they got there or when they left. And for us, what that'll do will give us, it'll go right into what we use to report to the National Fire Service. We'll be able to put that right into our report. And then as it's in our software, we'll be able to track, exactly what our trucks are doing, how many, what exactly our spot response time is from the first truck to the second truck. So we can evaluate what we're doing. I'm assuming it's gonna be the same for you
It's
guys.
simple analysis with little extra benefits, so, you don't hear over the radio that patient's staying, we don't give it, it's not allowed.
Yep.
So we get pinned to where we're gonna go, comes up on our laptops, and our dispatch can actually put in allergies to nitroglycerin, allergies to aspirin. So they can actually put in pertinent medical history on my patient that we're going to before we even get there. So it gives us a little bit of a history before we get there that can be more specific. I can't see where all the law enforcement is at, but they can see exactly where we are. So if I'm in trouble, then they know exactly where each one of our ambulances are. So I don't wanna know where they're at, I don't, but I like knowing that they know where we are 24/7. So, and that's good, and our program goes right to our computer program as well. So when we go out, it goes right to our computer.
So it's gonna have different enhancements for different agencies.
Yeah.
And,
So on the law enforcement side, there'll be other things like for the sheriff's department, we can plug in, like when we're out doing paper service and et cetera, it can track it for us, along with trying to add dispatch to it. We can plug in our information as we go. We get dispatch to someplace, we can also just start pulling up information about individuals in our cars as we're going.
fantastic.
Kind of put it in perspective for you. Remember that show Beverly Hills Cop?
Yep.
Remember when they're in the dispatch center in the 80s?
Mhm.
That's what we're finally getting.
His shoes squeak for
Oh, boy. Thank you for that visualization. So, I don't know if Bo's had a big opportunity to look through this, page by page, line by line, anything out of place that jumps out.
The only thing I noted, was noted by Howard Swanson, who's the attorney for the law enforcement center. The agreement is a little vague as to whether this dollar amount is our ongoing cost or our acquisition cost. I think that needs to be clarified a little bit, and that would just be paragraph number 1. User payments, you could toss in a few words, shall make annual payment to the LEC on or before the blank day of blank, and then you just cut the year, and then that's here's what you pay every year. Or if this is the acquisition cost, users shall make the acquisition cost payment. That's something that Howard would have to do.
Is it something you can like leave in there so that we can send it back to?
Sure. And as it sits right now, our usage is, I did the math, it's 18.7%, which is pretty close to what I guess I would say off the hip, about a fifth of the traffic is the deputies out there doing everything. And then closer to 45% is city making calls in and, using the dispatch, so from our perspective as Ramsey County and not as the district court, I think this is a good investment for us. I think it's gonna help our teams a lot. And especially the agency to agency communication, and it's just easier on the dispatcher, because they can look at the big board and see where everybody is. You don't have to be making a bunch of call outs. As far as the rest of the agreement goes, should be noted that the county the county would be purchasing but not retaining ownership. You'd be giving ownership to the LEC. That's not uncommon. That's how the other agreements are set up. Basically, you're funding and they're using it. It's for government purposes only. We're not going to be tracking, Paul on his way to Walmart or anything like that. And then this 3 pages is the entire agreement, so it's short and sweet to the point, as long as we can get paragraph 1 cleared up a little bit.
So is this a one-time? Is this an annual subscription thing that is subject to probably going up at some point?
Well, I think this is good for a 5-year.
Yeah, it was a 5-year.
um,
He brought it in and presented it.
If
So
that
the-
is
the
case,
purchase
that's
price
not
isn't
in the
involved
agreement.
with this, okay.
Purchase price has already been taken care of.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's something that City of Devils Lake and Ramsey County took upon themselves, and I can't remember the different percentages.
So in that paragraph 1, then it should be a 5-year, right, because at that point you might have to revisit it. Is that kind of what I'm getting?
The way I read it, it doesn't say anything like that.
Right,
Right,
what I'm
that's
saying
what I
is if you're
asked.
gonna amend it,
Yeah,
and this is like a 5-year program, then that's, at the end of 5 years, we're gonna be forced to revisit it, so a month would be a year.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. Because then we know budget-wise, we know what the budget for the next 5 years.
If you would all do me a favor and look on page number 1, under the recitals, recital number 4, LEC has or will incur the cost of acquisition, implementation, and seek to recover costs from users through equitable allocation. So what that means is, it's a variable rate, right? You use it more, you pay more. Use it less, you pay less. So I haven't sat in on all the LEC board meetings. I don't know if this is the locked in rate for 5 years, that's fine. We just need that to be in the document. If it's subject to change every year,
That needs to be in there.
that needs to be in there too. So I think if we can just get a little clarification.
I thought it was, but yeah, it could be based upon usership. If our usership does go up or we add,
Or did they figure it as an average, and we go back like 5 years,
Yeah.
and figure it out as an average, then it would probably not matter.
But either way, clarify it, so.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a 5-year deal.
clarify it so we know.
So really our only hang up is paragraph 1, everything else seems in order to me.
I think we'll keep it, write some notes on there so that we kind of have.
I'll do you one better. I'll put together a letter and I'll run it past Jeff before I send it off, but just kind of put in some of the comments we had here, send it off to Howard and say, hey, here's what we would like to see from our county. Plus, we think it would benefit everybody else too, so everybody knows what they're getting into.
We put a deadline on Howard that we needed before our first meeting in March, please. Well, because I think the timeline for implementing this central square is coming up a lot sooner than what we expected. Because I think we were initially expecting a rollout of next December, but it's June or July. So we would like to get this hammered out in this
Nice.
agreement.
Yeah, I can draft the letter tonight and have it for review
So-
tomorrow.
a 2-week time. You know, I don't think it's major changes, Sean.
If I can ask a question, can you possibly ask them to send us any kind of notification how much we owe and if we have an agreement or anything? Because we have received nothing.
You haven't received this?
Yeah.
Here, I'll email you a copy of it.
Thank you.
Okay,
I have an idea how much we owe.
yeah, all right.
I'm gonna tell my guys to not talk on the radio anymore.
$7,161.50.
Kind of disappointing, because they're in this first part here, you thought that everybody that was mentioned, they already got a copy of the draft.
Right. Yeah,
So hearing that, if you have not gotten a copy of it, should you be sending this to everybody to make sure everybody's got a copy of it? Or how should we proceed with that?
well,
Or do we have?
That's really not our
Right.
responsibility, but as a general courtesy, that probably wouldn't hurt. I think that's back to the LEC board and Howard. You might not have had everyone's emails, that's probably the most.
We could ask the question, yeah.
Yeah.
To the board. I think Jeff and I could figure it out.
Well, our next commission meeting will be before the next LAC board meeting. So, if at least we could have our part of it done prior to that, I would think that'd be a great benefit.
That would read
That,
properly.
that how it reads, how we'd like it read.
On the legal end of things, I think if we have these questions, the other entities will have the same questions. So we're not gonna be the only ones saying, please clarify this.
Right.
It's just a matter of timeline, so we can put some heat on them and say, hey, can you get this done, because we want this implemented on time. Thank you.
So,
Really, we're not looking for a motion on this, right? We need a motion.
let's do a motion to have our state's attorney draft up the proposed or recommended changes and send off to LEC Attorney Swanson.
I'm asking, what was the intent from the LEC board? Is this the intent to be the annual contract or the startup costs?
I believe it was the annual agreement.
Okay, so why?
Because the startup's already been taken care of.
Correct.
So this should be an annual,
I just remember those numbers when you presented it to us,
Right.
because I had asked the question, because it wasn't coming out to the percentage, and then
because it was like, what was it, 194,000 for the initial buy-in, and we were a smaller percentage, it wasn't a 50-50, the other
Right.
was like a 42.
yeah, then when he came back and showed and did it, it made sense.
Yeah. So yeah, I believe that this would be an annual agreement or for the duration of the software contract maybe.
Yeah, I'll get cracking. I'll write it out tonight and bring it to you tomorrow.
Okay. So that should be the motion then, Candy?
Sure.
Okay,
I will second that motion. Yeah.
and who was that made the motion? Was that me? Yeah, can I can do that, right?
Ken?
All right. So be it then. Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Any further discussion, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And one of the things that we have on there will be the DOT engineering, construction engineering for Ramsey 4, authorizing the county chairperson and auditor to sign off on. Total contract, maximum cost was $62,549.15. Paul, do you have anything you'd like to add on that?
It's the standard North Dakota DOT construction engineering services agreement for a local public agency. Federal aid project, so basically all the, doing through the federal aid process, this is the next step in that. We, on our end, we submitted our estimate of hours to the state DOT. And then they reviewed those, had no issues with their hours that we estimated, and then we gave them our full costs, and they put those in the agreement through on the commission.
And they changed their format of how they do that.
That's all the DocuSign.
Yeah. It used to be paper mailed, then you bring it to the board, group sign it, now everything comes by, I don't even know who gets it first, I think I get it first. And then I-
Electronic email,
Yeah,
and then
and then
I think it goes to everybody that's on there, and then everyone gets a deal that's been signed by the auditor, it's been signed by, yeah, it's now been completed. So everybody on the CC has signed off on it. Just to accept a motion to have the chairman and the auditor sign the DOT engineering contract.
So, I will second.
Motion and a second to approve that. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And point of clarification, we should amend our agenda to include the culverts for Kevin. That was in our packets. So can we do that at this point?
Sure.
Have an amended agenda to include the purchase of the culverts on the township road in Prospect Township. 654 inches, so the big boys. Total cost would be $53,966.88. We need a motion to order. So actually, we need a motion to amend the agenda first. So that was already motioned.
I would.
Okay,
Second.
motion and a second to amend the agenda to include the culverts. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is amended. Motion to order the culverts.
So moved. I will second.
Motion and a second to order the culverts. Again, total cost was $53,966.88. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. For those in the audience, those young men and women taking your civic merit badges, the reason that we do a roll call vote for some motions and just a yay or nay on others. Roll call is everything financially related. So if we're spending money, actually writing out the checks and signing them or sending them, then it's a roll call vote that everybody is in the affirmative, voting affirmative. Or it's just a standard voice vote. So a little background on that. So with that, I think we have visitors and delegations next up on our agenda. Anybody have any? Sean?
Thank you, Ross Over with the my apologies. I came up here to ask if you would historically covered our bills for the Lake Region Joint Training Center at $10,000 a year. For the city, I go every quarter and ask for money. I come every year to ask for money. So I'm asking for the $10,000. It's page 2 and 3, I think, of the packet I sent you. But it's $10,000 to cover the expenses of running the training center right now. the heat, direct operating costs, electricity, water,
10,000 even.
10,000 even. Is what was approved last year.
Can we go ahead and approve that without amending the agenda?
I think it would fall under the umbrella.
Okay. Anybody wanna make that a motion? Go ahead and pay $10,000 of our annual cost share for the training center.
I'll move.
Okay,
So,
motion in a second. Go ahead and commit that. Roll call, please.
Gessner. Volk.
Aye.
Otis.
Aye.
Wilhelmie.
Aye.
Brett.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Anybody else, visitors? Sheriff Lane.
We had our quarterly task force board meeting. They did their year-end stats for us, so I thought I'd come and share them with the commission. 2022, the drug task force did a total of 88 cases within the Lake Region Narcotics Task Force area. Dealt with 116 total suspects. Out of the 116 total suspects, all were charged with a different variety of charges. The case numbers are probably down just a little bit this year compared to 2021. What made this year, or 2022, a little bit more unique is the Drug Task Force has done more federal cases, got to go federally. They've taken off some large amounts of fentanyl pills and some methamphetamine. They've been working closely with FBI and the BIA drug enforcement, and been able to put together some really good cases that gone federal. And we got some of the bigger distributors coming into our area indicted, so which is a very big positive. And it just breaks down a number of what they were charged with, the number of narcotics seized, and the back sheet is just kind of gives a little bit more of a synopsis as to control buys and how they got to make their arrests and stuff. So I thought I'd just give it to the board, just so you got an idea what our task force has been up to and how we've been spending our money towards the task force and how it is benefiting us.
Would you seize cash or is that go?
The drug task force has a asset forfeiture fund that's set up by statute. That money can only be used for certain things. So that money's put in there. It's gotta go through a civil judgment. Once it goes through the court process, then it's awarded to us. Then the drug task force can use it to, usually buy their equipment or whatever they need to do their job, so.
It goes to a lot better use than what it was done before.
Absolutely.
Just so it's clear, the state's attorney's office also gets a portion of that funding, because we provide the legal services on the forfeiture side in court. I believe ours is pooling in an account right now. We're trying to decide what we want to use it for. We'll probably use it for drug prosecution training or possibly some updates to our office, different things around. So.
Cool.
Thank you.
I appreciate the update. It makes me angry. It makes me angry that we have this within our community. That we have a significant need for a narcotics task force within the Lake Region. That 4,300 fentanyl pills were seized.
Yes.
That's
Very disturbing.
That's really disturbing, and Yeah, so parents watching, adults watching, kids watching. We can't bury our heads in the sand anymore and say that drugs are not within our community, that we don't have a problem. Because it's right here on black and white that, it's here and we're making arrests and we're putting these, taking these things off the streets. But how much of them are getting away? And, how much of it's out there? And these are drugs that have the potential of being lethal. So it's very concerning. But I appreciate you bringing this in and bringing it to our attention.
So I got, all the equipment's been ordered and they've told me 6 to 8 weeks, we should start seeing stuff rolling in, so.
And as far as the lights and the computers and all that, that's.
They've all been ordered and they're all saying about the same time.
Okay. Well, all right. Appreciate that. So appreciate everything you guys are doing. Mr. Cummings, do you have anything other than?
Got a notification about some of our national opioid lawsuits. We have a timeline going into April. I believe there's 5 distributors that are agreeing to settle. Allergon, CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, and Teva, T-E-V-A. They're offering us a settlement to resolve our claims with them. It would be similar to the last one we did where we would receive an annual payout over a certain number of years. We don't have to go into all the specifics because we don't have to make a decision until April on that, so we can talk about that at a later date. But I wanted you all to know that I have received that. I'm reviewing the terms. I'll let you know if I think it's a good deal or a bad deal. That being said, I don't know that we have the resources to take on Walmart's corporate counsel, so.
Oh, come on.
We have the will, but maybe not the wherewithal.
Right. Okay.
That's all I've got.
Ramsey County Planning Commission will meet tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. in the historical room. Or is that the historical room?
We'll see after the meeting.
It'll be historic. It'll be a historic meeting. And Paul and Lee are the new representatives on that. I don't know if Paul has time to give us any heads up on that in the morning or wants to sit in on it and give us point us in the right direction.
I apologize, I was drafting this letter, so I wasn't listening.
Oh,
Don't do that, kids. Listen to your boss.
Ramsey County Planning Commission tomorrow morning. I'm not sure if you're available. Point that commission, that committee in the right direction. And I don't know if either of you have anything that you wanna let the other commissioners know that
This is gonna be a
reorganization.
reorganization, kind of, everybody's going where we've been and where we should go.
Is there anything that got left off 5 years ago or whatever it was? Assuming anything that didn't get resolved back then probably wasn't as big of a deal as it seemed like. I don't know.
We made a lot of bones out of molehills. But, and so that's tomorrow morning. Anybody have anything for portfolio updates or announcements? Law enforcement center, similar to what that, computer-aided drafting agreement was. That's something similar to what we're working on for a facilities agreement and a joint powers agreement for the facility and for a operational agreement. I'm not sure what's better for commissioners. Is it evenings or mornings or during the day for a joint meeting between the county commission and the city commission? Evenings, nights, and this is something that I had mentioned to Mayor Mullen. He was gonna check with their commissioners and their administrator, and we'll probably host it in our facility here, since we have a little larger, ability downstairs in our meeting room, and bring both commissions together and hammer out the agreement for the facilities to start with, and following the facilities, it'll be the, joint operations of the LEC itself, with ourselves, the city of Devils Lake, Benson, Eddy, and Nelson counties. Okay. I know the city's always on an evening schedule, and whether that works for everybody's schedule here, I'm not sure.
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Commissioner Volk, any preference?
Evening works.
Depends on what it is, I can make whatever work.
Yeah. Well, we'll throw some dates out there and see what sticks to the wall and see if we can bring everybody together, but hoping within the next 2 weeks that something like that could happen. Not sure if that's possible or if we'll have agreements done, but and maybe that's something that the attorneys for each entity can sit down and work out together individually and bring back to us so we can sit down and have that discussion. But something that needs to get resolved and out the table sooner than later. So, any other announcements for the good of the order? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you all for attending.